You are listening to Mining Stock Education, where you'll learn from the top leaders in the natural resource sector and uncover quality mining investment opportunities.
Ultimately, if you take it from surface and you go down to the end of that hole, which bottomed in mineralization, that's over 1.5 kilometers of continuous vertical mineralization on the project. And it's wide open. I mean, that's the beauty of the situation we're in. It's not like there's 17 drill holes underneath this thing and we know exactly how big it is and what the grades are going to be. To us, it's just a phenomenal project that we get to expand on that discovery. I mean, me personally, I've never had access to a discovery at this stage before. Just made. Go drilling, wonderful stuff.
Welcome back to Mining Stock Education. I'm your host, Bill Powers. In today's show, we're getting an update from Torq Resources and its executive chairman, Shawn Wallace, as well as Michael Hendrickson, the chief geologist. Torq trades in Toronto under TORQ and on the OTC CuEq under TRBMF. Website is torqresources.com, and it's Torq with a Q, just to point that out. Gentlemen, welcome back onto the show. And Shawn, you acquired a project, the Santa Cecilia copper gold project in Chile. Since we last spoke, perhaps give us a rundown of this project and its prospectivity, please.
Sure. And thanks for having us on today, Bill. The Santa Cecilia project was, in fact, the reason we went to Chile. We love the Margarita project, the Andrea project, but ultimately they were stepping stones to the reason for being, the reason that we're there. And we had coveted this. We weren't very confident that we would get it, but we did. And that is a big testament to our Chilean team and our sort of steadfastness and our don't give up attitude, because it did take some time to achieve. The Santa Cecilia project is on the Maricunga belt. It's located next to a very large wealth of resources owned by a joint venture, the Norte Alberto joint venture. It's just a fantastic opportunity to get involved in a big bulk tonnage, very interesting geological sort of scenario there. And I won't go on too much about that. I'll take Mike's thunder here. But, we love this project because we know with the 2 drill holes that have been drilled there, that has confirmed the presence of widespread, large intercepts of copper gold mineralization. And that's frankly really what you're looking for here when you're hunting for porphyries. The geophysics have outlined a massive geophysical target that coincides with the drilling. It's just all stacked up in the way you want it to be before you head out onto a very large and intensive drill campaign, which we should start off here. We're going to dip our toe into those waters here in 2022.
Shawn, if I recall from our previous conversation, isn't your preference kind of to go after these porphyries too, if you had to take a choice?
Personally, everyone's got the thing they love. These porphyries have done me good business throughout my career, so I certainly have learned to love them. And they're major deposits, and they have major resources, and they move the needle for major mining companies. As we've discussed previously, our group, we're very good in our place on the food chain, and that's the exploration and just dipping into the development phase of an asset. And really at that point, we're ready to hand it off to either bring in another team as we did in Keegan, or to get taken over as we did in Caden. And those are sort of the two ways that we step off and hand it on to the next people up the food chain.
Michael, I know you're excited about this project from speaking with you, but even before you lay out the prospectivity and why you're excited, I got to ask you the question, as any savvy investor would. If this project is so good, why did it sit around for so long?
Yeah, Bill, there's an amazing backstory to this whole scenario. Santa Cecilia is the creation of a period of time that started in the mid-'80s. And there was a Chilean mining entrepreneur, Canadian geologist, and one of the majors got together. And it was just as the time as satellite imagery was coming out, and you could see all these big alteration systems. And these guys went out, flew over these alteration systems and started staking them. And some amazing discoveries came out of this. For instance, the El Indio deposit, Pascua-Lama, amazing discoveries. Cerro Maricunga, just to the north of Santa Cecilia. Santa Cecilia itself was born out of that era. And then there was another large-scale porphyry called Westwall, which is now held by Anglo and Glencore, over 1 billion tonner. So this was an extremely successful group that put this together. And so with that success, they kind of bought themselves the luxury of time, if you will. So really, the major was in there exploring for a couple of years, found some great oxide gold, which is now going to be very important from an economic standpoint, found some really good high-grade gold and silver mineralization. Again, both discoveries that we get to add to and see what they truly can become. And then that project from 1990 to 2012 sat there. The owners just said, okay, we'll sit here for a while. And then they chose to drill these 2 holes into the underlying porphyry system because Caspiche and Cerro Casale had been found in the meantime. And those were the first bona fide porphyry discoveries in the Maricunga, which changed the game entirely. So just a phenomenal set of circumstances that got us there. And the reason, in my mind, that we were able to do this in very large part is due to our Chilean team led by Waldo Quadra. They had the relationship with the Chilean owner. They had the credibility in country. And then, partnering with us, a very capable group, that was how it all got done. From my perspective, when to introduce Waldo and company who've been involved in major discoveries, but this is the slide that I want to show you. I mean, you get to Santa Cecilia, and I'll never forget going there for the first time. You get up on top of the hill, there's all this oxide gold mineralization you're standing on, and I did a 360-degree turn. And I took in 60 million ounces of gold and 13 billion pounds of copper. And I said to myself, wow, it's exactly like I'm back in the big show, working for a major, like, when I used to work for Newmont. And I went, here's all the endowment. Here's the world-class deposits. We have to get this thing one way or another. And if you look at Caspiche here, and Cerro Casale, I mean, that's 50 million ounces and 13 billion pounds of copper held by Newmont and Barrick. You can see that Caspiche is part of the bigger Santa Cecilia alteration system, which just leads you to think, what's underneath that, And so for us, we're just, obviously incredibly excited because when you look at the technical merits of this, I mean, you can see this shallow drilling. It's on top of a topographic high. It's all this oxide gold, some really fantastic intercepts. It's drill hole to drill hole. We know it's going to be a cohesive body. The question we have is, how big does it become? What's the ultimate grade? How important is it going to be from an economic standpoint? That's 1988 to 1990 drilling, that shallow stuff. And then you can see this underlying drill hole. There were 2 put into the underlying system, and it hit 925 meters of 0.45% copper equivalent.
Michael, I got to stop you and say, you got to say that again, because if you put out a headline tomorrow that said 925 meters of nearly 0.5% copper, your market cap would double in a day. So maybe just, press into that hole a little more.
Yeah. I mean, I think I can take you one step further. I mean, ultimately, if you take it from surface and you go down to the end of that hole, which bottomed in mineralization, that's over 1.5 kilometers of continuous vertical mineralization on the project. And it's wide open. I mean, that's the beauty of the situation we're in. It's not like there's 17 drill holes underneath this thing and we know exactly how big it is and what the grades are going to be. To us, it's just a phenomenal project that we get to expand on that discovery. I mean, me personally, I've never had access to a discovery at this stage before. Just made. Go drilling, wonderful stuff.
So the people, if I could just summarize from a retail perspective, the people that owned it had too much money, so they didn't prioritize it. And then you, through fate and relationships, were able to gain access to it.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, I think the underlying owners wanted it to go to good hands. They're kind of coming towards the end of their careers. And they trusted our group. They trusted Waldo, they trusted our corporate group, and that was how we were able to do it. So, just thrilled to have it.
Shawn, what's the next steps? You mentioned drilling. When should we expect drilling, and what type of a drill plan?
Yeah, so we are currently working on getting our social license. As you know, we only acquired this in the last quarter of 2021, and so it's actually been going extremely well. given that, again, the world's in a pandemic and all this sort of stuff that we're tired of talking about, but it's still a reality that we're dealing with. We were able to engage the community. We've taken on one of Chile's more preeminent social consultancies to work with us. Waldo and his team have previous relationships with people in this community and others around it. And we've been managed to engage them. And so it's been going quite well. We're very confident that we will have social license here in the very near future. And we're going to come up with an agreement that's accretive to both what we're doing and certainly that we can pass down some of the benefits of our, presence onto the people to whom we are the guests. I'm looking for that. It will have to happen prior to the drill program getting going. In terms of permitting, we're very fortunate. There's already an existing permit on the project that allows us to drill from existing roads and pads, so existing disturbances, if you will, to put it in layman's terms. And so we'll be able to get out there and do the tests that we want to do. So, those disturbances will inform where our drill stems will start from. But the nice thing about these big porphyries is, you're not trying to hit something 1 meter wide or 3 meters wide. We're trying to hit something 1.5 kilometers wide. So, I think you can do that blindfolded, I hope. You can use angle drilling, vertical drilling. There's all sorts of tricks that you can get to test the areas you want to from the locations will be afforded. That'll certainly take care of the whole first year. And during that time, we'll get a more comprehensive permit, and we'll have the community in our hands to aid in that in an ideal scenario. So that's what's happening next. We're going to get you'll see an announcement at some point here in the near future, I hope, and with saying that we've come to terms with the community, and away we go. And we'll get drilling. We will get stopped out for a couple months here later, probably in the middle of the summer, because that's the middle of their winter. And not that we couldn't drill then, or that, once we get this thing rolling, I anticipate starting off with a couple drills. And I personally believe, and I've worked on a lot of these big beasts, you get going and you never stop. Once you have the momentum, once things start happening the way you want, all we'll be doing is adding drills, frankly, until you get to near the end of doing it, and then you sort of go into an engineering phase. But we have a long time before we get to that point. I think that so the plan would be to start off with 2 drills here this year. We have a $3 million U.S. commitment in terms of what we need to spend on it, so that will help inform our first sort of dipping of our toe into it. But I have a feeling that we're going to dip that toe and then we're just going to dive in. And I think that the response that we're going to get from stakeholders, shareholders, fund managers, corporate entities is it's going to keep us quite busy once this thing gets rolling. We're all in sort of a listless, sort of apathetic market right now, and I think it's important not to allow all that noise to sway anyone's sense of what's going on here. Because certainly, when you look at sort of the anemic share performance that we see with ourselves and with many other good stories, it's just not indicative of what's actually happening. So better times ahead. We firmly believe that, and we're ready to go.
And could you just remind us what's in the treasury, and do you plan on financing before this drill program?
Yeah, we're again, it's not in the optimal time. We don't have the best price, so we're very dilution sensitive. We will add some capital here in the very near future, and prior to initiating this drill program. But the community exercise will afford us the time to do that.
Michael, the Margarita project, I believe you have 4,000 meters drilling there, if I recall correctly. Could you give us an update on that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. We're just finished hole 7. We expect the program to probably finish sometime towards the end of February, early March. Obviously, we're getting through our targets where we're drilling underneath copper oxide, looking for sulfides. First set of results probably trickling in towards the end of February. And then you'll probably have a series of news releases as we kind of put this thing together and what the results all mean and what we really view as the opportunity at Margarita moving forward.
So drill results in February, that's when we should expect
towards the end of Feb, early March. I mean, just kind of wait. Every assay labs are still very busy, but that's kind of our expectation at the moment.
And Shawn, as we conclude, anything else investors should be looking forward to from the company?
No, I think, results for Margarita, getting the social license with the community and the commencement of real creative, value creative sort of work, i.e. drilling, ASAP at Santa Cecilia. And I don't think we need anything else.
Excellent. All right. Well, again, the website is torqresources.com, ticker symbol in Toronto, TORQ. And in the States, you can see it under TRBMF. Thank you, gentlemen, for providing this update.
Thanks, Bill.